Yani Neko continues to push the boundaries of comedy as an anime, but episode 3 surprised me with a real-life commentary on things such as segregation, racism, and even brainwashing to a degree. This series continues to be not only one of the best of the season, but simply one of the most surprisingly deep comedies I have ever personally seen. What most didn't pick up on with this episode is how the world around Yani Neko is starting to develop. And believe it or not, this episode confirms that there is segregation between humans and Anthros in this series. Yes, you heard that right. Because after Yani Neko plays football with a bunch of distracted boys, the cops come by and basically tell her that she was seen as harassing these young boys. There is a main piece of subtext here that proves this, but another that backs this main one up we're about to talk about, which is the landlord who says he's surprised to see Yani Neko in this area, and then later on, the cops who tell her to be more careful. That she shouldn't think it's okay just because this is Nyaga Mihara, which is a funny way to call. I'm sorry, I just like how everything starts with Nya in this series. Through subcontext, a racist human called the police on Yani Neko because they are likely afraid of Anthros. They seem scary because they likely aren't around many Anthros. And to be fair, at least for Yani Neko, that's I would be scared of her too, because as we see, she is a chimney, even if everyone is secretly attracted to her physically speaking. She's about the most easygoing cat I've ever seen, to the point that she wears zero underwear, I guess, and doesn't understand the effect that she has on others by doing such things. Me, I say do whatever you want to do, wear what you want, but it is funny how the boys can't focus because of it. And if there is a bit of sympathy in how she collapses after 2 minutes because she can't breathe, and what she says is that if she smokes more, she'll be okay. This, combined with the reveal of racist segregation, fascist style, really puts into context that Yani Neko and even the other cats, as we're about to see more of, aren't actually all that bad. Yeah, they do raunchy stuff and objectively horrible things to each other, but at the same time, the system that society has put in place has made them this way. They have no freedoms at all in this world, and most likely these addictions are used to oppress the Anthros like Yani Neko, but especially those like Yaku Neko and Hame Neko, who seem to be the cats with the most, lost thus far in society. So, can we really be that condemning to a group of people who are being oppressed like this? Would we do the same to people in our society today that are being oppressed in the same ways? If anything, I feel a big piece of Yani Neko's world is that the Anthros like Yani Neko are just mirrors of us regular peasants. Me and you. I know people just like Yani Neko in my life, and I think they're amazing people, most all of them. Some even have drug addictions too that they're fighting through, and I wouldn't dare say they're bad people. They've made really horrible decisions though. They're all trying, just as we are. I didn't at all expect that to come out of me after seeing Yani Neko jiggle around. But that shows the depth of the series. That's the brilliance of the comedy. Because this is true comedy in all of its glory, making fun of our true lived-in reality and in turn making a social commentary. But it wouldn't be Yani Neko if she didn't for some reason pick on that landlord of hers. Easily one of the best characters and most likable, by the way. The landlord has some weird moments here, but he's just so likable. I like how he is very clearly attracted to Yani Neko, as we see from the opening, but otherwise he is a genuinely very nice person who is trying to help others and be of use. Plus he's a human, so I wonder if there will be some plot later on that reveals he's sympathetic and even relates to those like Yani Neko. After all, he too was oppressed by his own family as a child. To blow off some steam, Yani Neko decides to prank the landlord by dropping ashes on his head, then a bunch of garbage she has in her pocket, and then finally spits on his head. Now, we gotta talk about this, because one of the details I like about Yani Neko thus far is that in every episode, they always, all the cats pull stuff out of their pockets, and it's usually always just garbage, cigarettes, coins, or a plant of some kind. Now, my guess is that they have the plant to sniff it, because after all, they're cats. But it also is a commentary that none of these cats have things like wallets, paper bills, phones, none of that stuff. They have what is on them, and that's it, which shows truly how poor they are. I think another bit of subcontext is when the landlord says that the liquid smells like human malice and bitterness. There is a bit of clever writing that happens in the series from time to time where they often use liquids and the way things taste or smell to convey a deeper message on the people in society. In episode 2, as an example, Yani Neko makes Neko tastes, well, her pee, which she said, that's what life tastes like, which is to say salty. So with the landlord's comments, you would say that the cigarettes, coffee, and old feet combined with human malice and bitterness means that humanity has so much malice and bitterness against Anthros that they have purposefully given them vices as a method of getting back at them, which has changed their body. Because think about it this way, Anthros, they're hard workers. They do the jobs that humans clearly do not want to do. So because they are coming up in society, the humans are trying to find ways to keep their place. Another fact is that humans clearly want to breed with Anthros, and they do not want them to breed with other Anthros. The reason for me saying that is because pureblood Anthros are not allowed last names. At the same time, all of the humans we have seen thus far aren't very attractive. Yet the Anthros have thus far been wildly attractive and beautiful. So I guess the picture I'm trying to paint here is that this is all to say that the true beautiful people in our society, and especially those in Japanese society, of this world, I guess, are the most oppressed by society and capitalism, and yeah, so y'all pretty. Oh, but I almost forgot to mention, the landlord thinks this is because of Jakuso Bubura. I looked this up. It doesn't mean anything. I couldn't find a single thing on it on the internet. No big lore, nothing. Seems that more or less, it's just an inside joke made for this series and this world's lore, which I find really cool. However, this idea of curses does play into the episode later on too. So Yani Neko decides to drop a microwave on the landlord's head, caving in his face and prompting him to give her a stern talking to about her smoking and how bad it is. This is the classic spiel that will and has never worked. Nobody has ever convinced an addict through reminding them that what they're doing is bad for them. They know. That's the point of addiction. However, what makes the landlord different is he goes above and beyond to try and get Yani Neko real help by suggesting she go to a group that helps people quit smoking, which is basically getting her a support structure. This shows the kind-hearted nature of the landlord and how he's really different from other humans. He doesn't let Yani Neko off the hook. He doesn't enable her. He's trying to reprimand her in a way that doesn't worsen her situation since she has no real support structure available. He's actually trying to be that support structure. But I don't know if you guys caught this. It's almost actually unreal that we're getting this kind of writing in a series as raunchy as this. Yani Neko clearly doesn't care about the boring stats on how she's killing herself slowly, so she takes the Nyacotine patches and puts 2 on the back of his head to make a face. It cracks her up good, and I'm sure the landlord was very confused at all of this, but she then reads that using the patches on humans can kill them. This is when a strange aura begins to overtake the landlord's skull, which had me howling at the moon. This was amazing. I just couldn't contain myself. My ribs were exploding. But the best part is when he begins to feel depressed and guilty. He begins to think that maybe he is being condescending and using his sense of righteousness too much to the point that it is a little overbearing. So, now, I want to ask you guys this. Is this how cats feel when they use these patches? If so, isn't this tantamount to something like brainwashing or emotional manipulation? It wouldn't surprise me too much because as a cat owner, we give our cats things like catnip and treats that manipulate their moods quite often. I mean, we've already seen segregation in this series too. Is this really beyond the pale? Is this really so unbelievable? So, Yani Neko farts in the landlord's face, drags him onto the patio for Neko to find because, sure, why not? And this also begs the question, how potent are those farts? What is she eating? So what happens when Yani Neko inevitably cannot pay her rent? Well, she does chores around the place for the landlord by cleaning up the courtyard, which she can't focus on at all because of her addiction to the point that mid-conversation she's pulling out cigarettes after getting them confiscated. More than anything, I think this is another instance of Yani Neko unwittingly taking advantage of the landlord's good nature. Because he's even like, hey, I can't be too hard on that cat. I'll bring her some snacks later. He's a cool dude. I like this guy. And especially when he sees Yani Neko looking up at him with those, eating those horsetails with those big brown cat eyes. Oh, of course this guy would fold. I think there is more to this than just the landlord being lonely and horny, though. I think that's a big part of it, but cats are just, I don't know, they're just cute. And I like the idea of humans like the landlord not being able to help themselves because cats are adorable little babies. And like what happens when humans sees, we see cats in our real life. We're like, oh, he's so cute. You just can't help it. Those big round eyes and those whiskers. Well, he learned a lesson this day to not let the cuteness of a cat affect you because he comes home to find that Yani Neko has eaten his Cabbage Patch, the entire thing. So he sprays her with a bottle of Coke as penance right in the eyes. And sometimes Yani Neko does something in the series where you gotta admit, she deserved it, or at least had it coming. Yeah, she's a hopeless addict, and we should be aware of that and sympathetic. After all, that's a part of the comedy in this series. But Yani Neko literally did jack shit and then eats a man's entire Cabbage Patch that he spent all this time growing and then has the audacity to take the snacks for later. Oh yeah, she deserved all of that. All of it. The landlord truly doesn't need or deserve any of these cats, and it makes me wonder why he is just doing it. I don't know. Could be just because he wants to help out these poor addicted Nekos and be of use. Regardless, a small detail you probably missed, I know you did, is the pan-up scene after Yani Neko gets sprayed in the eyes. Off in the distance, we see the mountains with some sort of cat totem or statue or something. I thought this little detail did so much to build up the world around Yani Neko. We can only headcanon this, but my guess is that Nekos are aliens that come from the planet Nyars. That was a joke. But guys, the poor landlord, I don't know a man with such a hopeless attraction to the worst society has to offer is even bothering. This next joke is hilarious because while Yani Neko peels the poster on her wall because she is worried her wallpaper is dirty and covered with tar, which it is, she's just deluded. Behind the poster is a talisman to ward off spirits. As this is happening, she is hearing a strange sound, a strange rapping sound. That's because the landlord is using a sex doll that looks like a dog. So, Yani Neko bangs on his door, panicking over her room being haunted because he didn't want to get caught, so he just tells her to go back to her apartment and leave him alone. And we literally see this man's junk. He is... All the while, he answered the door pantless and has his massive member hanging free. He canonically has a cannon in those pants. He could blast a hole through steel. If that were to be used on a human, they'd be incinerated. The colossal titan blushes at the thought. Big pee-pee. Like the landlord, you can have your own doggy style by picking up Doggy Style GG for 10% off when you use code SeaTactics. I also recommend a waifu cup with that doggy style, which some do have cat ears. So you can reluctantly, I'm sure, be just like Yani Neko. Oh boy. But we are formally introduced to a new cat, or rather one of Imoko's friends who offered to check in on Yani Neko for her. She's a comedian, one of the best, from Kansai, or rather she has an overinflated ego and thinks that she is self-important and a comedian. She is none of these things, but either way, she's freaking hilarious in the most unintentional way. While Yani Neko is reading a magazine, a 4-comma manga, Kauruko, or Kansai Neko, which means west of the border or west of the checkpoint, this is what is referred to as the cultural heartland of Japan, which is Osaka, Kyoto, and Kobe. Kaoru, her actual name on the other hand, means fragrance, so I bet this cat smells pretty good, all things considered, and based on what she wears, she is absolutely a Kansai Neko. She grew up in the heartland after all, so she's much more refined and sophisticated than someone like Yani Neko, who is very smelly. Well, Kansai Neko isn't having Yani Neko's pure silence as she reads magazines she borrowed from the landlord. From like out of nowhere, Kansai Neko picks up nose hooks, which if you're not aware is a BDSM toy, and she apparently found that inside the magazine that she borrowed from the landlord. So there's many layers to this joke, and poor landlord. It's just another example of him being bullied by the show when, he's just a good guy. He's just very kinky. He's just a kinky bastard, and he loves Nekos, and it looks like he wants to be punished by one, which is probably why he puts up with Yani Neko so much. He actually likes the abuse that she gives him because it reminds him of his childhood and his parents showing affection by abusing him. Parent issues. Boy! The landlord is simply reliving old patterns and trauma through Yani Neko. He is sexually attracted to her because Yani Neko acts precisely how he was raised, which in of itself is a commentary on how our childhood can really mess us up and hardwire us to make things hard to overcome, pretty much. Kansai somehow knows how to use one of these nose hooks, so to try and get one up on Yani Neko somehow and get her to laugh, she puts it on without a second thought to where it has been. This is the tragedy of Kansai Neko. She is so driven by pride because of where she grew up that she plays this game of one-upsmanship with herself, which then leads to some of the most boring-ass jokes I've ever heard. If this woman has pride now, she needs to deeply reconsider this pride because she has. I'm revoking all of her pride myself. Her idea of jokes is to basically tell Yani Neko a bunch of about the world's lore, which, yes, as you guessed, it's freaking awesome, and I'm gonna explain it, but good God, those aren't jokes. Kansai Neko explains that based on cigarette sales, you can tell the ratio of beastfolk residents by region. So through that, the companies further leverage animal instincts by selecting which brands to stock. This pretty much means that corporate capitalism has taken over the beastfolk in Japan and has gotten them massively addicted to cigarettes. Which is because, like in real life, animals are highly susceptible to addiction. Cats, as an example, crave fat and salt and thus can become addicted to foods which have those. So when a cat, say our Yani Neko herself, gets addicted to something, it is nearly impossible to get them off of something. Hence why she always is smoking and always pulling out a cigarette to smoke. The capitalists know this and thus use this as an enslavement method to get them to be obedient and work more, cancer or not. Though it is worth noting that Kansai has a good taste in television because she references Twin Peaks as a joke, which I thought was actually pretty funny. We see Kansai Neko dressed up as the dead corpse of Laura Palmer from episode 1. By the way, please watch Twin Peaks. The fact this show referenced it is a reason enough to consider Yani Neko a masterpiece in my opinion, which it is worth noting that, on a depressing note I guess, David Lynch smoked all of his life and sort of died from complications of it, so there's a layer in that joke. Kansai Neko is crazy and stuffs cigarettes in her nose and does a double piece ehigio, I think is how you pronounce this, which, if you're thankfully unaware, you're about to not be unaware anymore, is basically a woman's face after she has a massive climax. It's not exactly based on anything real. It's another weird but inventive creation due to Japan's censorship laws. But if you can do that in real life, good for you. Kansai Neko, all out of patience, simply begs Yani Neko to laugh, so she starts hitting Kansai on the chest to entertain herself. Like, it's just you can't make up this friendship. It's perfect. Okay, so here's where the crazy stuff starts to happen really quickly. We are finally introduced to the Shaman Cat from the opening. And I think she's in a random background scene in episode 1. If you caught it, you're a real one. Her name is Aru Neko, which means to exist and is commonly used for inanimate objects, meaning that Aru Neko is likely to be a non-existent figure in this friend group. It also shows the effects of alcoholism, which commonly makes those suffering from it withdraw from society and social groups and dedicate everything they have to simply just drinking, which is what Aru Neko does all day. She drinks watered-down absinthe, I think is how you pronounce it, which is a very, very hard version of alcohol. You have to be very careful about drinking it. That's how hard it is, which is probably why she waters it down, besides just getting more bang for her buck. And like most common alcoholics, there is a risk when sleeping drunk that you will vomit in your sleep, choke, and die, especially if you're drinking alcohol while you're sleeping. Crazy. It seems this is, sadly, somewhat of a commonplace thing for Aru Neko, as Kansai Neko arrives in the nick of time and puts her into the safety position, which is on her side, laying on her hand, which clears the airway, allowing for air to move into the lungs again. More than any other cat, I think Aru Neko is one of the more darker and grim ones. So the more we see of her, the more I think we'll see just that, and I'll cry. We then see the cats have fun with the public broadcast van, most likely one of the temp jobs that Yani Neko got from the last episode, so really cool world building. They use the microphone to blast farts into the microphone. And I'm sorry, but this was funny. The fact that Kansai Neko thinks of herself as this prideful cat when in reality, she's just like everyone else in this show says something, I think. It's a commentary on how we're all just the same. Yani Neko is about having fun at the heart of it. Sure, it has this deep message that is very important to tell, but Kansai Neko feels like the embodiment of the people who really refuse to give this series a shot because they think it is below them. In reality, much like how Kansai Neko is in this show, it is the other way around and they don't even know it. Kansai Neko, while being deluded into her prideful disposition, is still honest though, and knows how to let loose and have fun. After all, she's all about making people laugh. What's not to appreciate about that? You're not above having fun, and for God's sake, stop using the word cringe. Just have fun, people. Speaking of having fun, Yani Neko somehow gets stuck in a hole in the wall, which is another hentai joke where a common fetish in hentai is women getting stuck in walls and, well, people lining up. It's a rather absurd fetish, which is why it fits in here in Yani Neko. Kansai Neko is basically a pervert, as evident by her knowing about Ahigio, putting on the nose hook, and now dry humping Yani Neko, which, that animation, oh god. By doing this, it causes a group of lonely men to line up, and do I mean a lot of men. Plus, she even calls Yani Neko's butt impossibly soft, so now you know she got a fat ass. I can't believe I just said that. Plus, she even calls Yani Neko's butt impossibly soft, as if her having a single attractive feature on her body was somehow impossible, which I thought was kind of funny. Just goes to show how unhealthy Yani Neko is that people find it hard to believe she is attractive. That's funny. This show just keeps pushing the boundaries of what is possible for comedy, especially in Japan, which is why I made this video talking about why Yani Neko is one of Japan's most boundary-pushing anime in a long time. Make it a great day or not, the choice is yours.